Awkward's really not right, but it's not exactly for the reasons that you think. Now, first off, Awkward and SVB just had, I guess, a debate of sorts, talking about Awkward's tweet about crying, SVB's initial video, Awkward's response, and a lot more. I've already put my thoughts on the crying part specifically out there, but I think this provokes a much larger discussion that's actually really important and that I feel the need to talk about because I think some things need to be said. So first off, I don't know Awkward that well, but I feel that his intentions based off of his actions previously, whether it was paying for people's gym memberships, encouraging people to go out there and take care of themselves physically, I feel that his intentions are good. Maybe I'm assuming the best about the person, but I think based off of his actions, intentions were good. I just don't think the communication around his message was as accurate and as helpful as it could be. And I do think that, as SVB says in the debate, it could hurt people as well as help them. And I think that that nuance is missing here. So to start things off, let's talk about some really uncomfortable truths. And this is not something that you need to take my word for. There are readily available studies that talk about these things and a lot more. So first off, things that are uncontestable. Exercise and mental health have a positive correlation. Good exercise, if you're physically active, you are more likely than not to have better mental health. Doing things, accomplishing things, whether they're physical or not, is a feeling of dopamine for accomplishing something worthwhile, whether that's accomplishing a job, finishing a paper, making a meaningful connection. That has a positive correlation with mental health. Emotional bonds, friends, family, making ties and connections and having good relationships, mental health, positive correlation. Cathartic release, crying, and mental health is a positive correlation. Now, no control of your emotions is bad. There's always nuance here, and I think that's part of the reason why this argument is so hard, is the fact that anything done to an extreme is bad. But cathartic release and crying, showing emotion, are good positive traits, not only in terms of an empathy, but in your own terms, your own personal response to the emotions allows you to control those emotions. Now, obviously, when done to the extreme, anything done to the extreme, that can be a bad thing. Exercise. I've known many people, Pepper, back me up with this one. A lot of people that get way too much involved with exercise and end up trashing themselves, not just physically, but mentally, and become really unhappy and miserable people. There is nothing when done in extreme that is healthy. Everything is nuanced. Aristotle talked about the golden mean. And so using crying as, oh, you don't have control of your emotions is really just an exaggeration and talking about things in a black and white. Guys, things have nuance. Now, here's a couple of other uncomfortable truths. Being attractive and taking care of yourself physically makes you more respectable. It's not a very fun truth, but on initial first impressions especially, it matters. Accomplishing things makes you more respectable. Now, is that perfectly fair about things? Have you met unattractive people, overweight people who are very smart, very intelligent, and not only respectable in terms of what they do, but also just phenomenal people? Absolutely. But unfortunately, first impressions matter. And I also think that if you are the type of person that does those type of things, we live in a world where correlation and what's the word I'm looking for? Bias. We're all guilty, guys. Let's not kid ourselves. When we see something that we associate with bad behavior, either not taking care of yourself, being lazy or whatever else, we automatically make a judgment about ourselves. Now, whether that's fair or not, that's up for debate. I would say it's generally something that we're not super proud of, right? And more often than not, bias in correlation with those negative aspects is almost always a negative thing. However, that's part of our human nature. So while we are, as human beings, looking to improve ourselves, we should also understand that on our impressions of other people, we should almost never, ever, we really should never judge based off of appearances. But unfortunately, that's just fact. It does not make the end goal of being attractive or being somebody who accomplishes things or physically taken care of or well-dressed, it doesn't make those things undesirable though. And I think that's where we have to be really careful. We'd never ever want to judge a book by its cover. But we should never shame somebody for making their cover look better or putting time and effort into that into themselves. Not because being attractive is good or being well dressed is all that matters, but the effort, the action of trying to better yourself is healthy and respectable. And that's the key thing right there. I think a lot of people tend to tear people down or want to try to build themselves up. But remember, the action of doing that is a productive and positive action. I've got my notes here. Now, this is the key thing though. When you pursue those end goals at the expense of personal growth, you basically become a charade. You become a facade of what you're supposed to be. That's the toxic masculinity that we're talking about. When your only goal is to get jacked and freaking huge. Is there something about that that is going to be helpful and healthy for you mentally and physically? Absolutely. But when that becomes the obsession, when the cart comes before the horse, when you want to put on the mask but you aren't the clown. You're just putting on a charade. You aren't really, you're not, he ain't him, is basically what we're saying here. You need to pursue personal growth, not just, oh, I'm going to be strong, I'm going to be rich, I'm going to accomplish things, all the babes love me. That's the facade. And the irony there is, not only is it the danger of being obsessed with progress and accomplishing things and go and chop down trees and doing that, well, that's good in of itself. When that becomes your only focus, it becomes an obsession. But it's also not really maturing you as a person either. Generally, the people that accomplish great things that are worthy of note, not necessarily Fortune 500 companies, but being good human beings, are not just strong and dedicated and muscular. They also have moral fiber. They have character. They care for other people. And I think when we talk about something like, you know what I'm going to do? You know what I'm going to do? Here's what I'm going to do. I want to listen to the last American Psycho, the last line in the American Psycho, because we talk about the Sigma male grind set. And I know most of it's ironic, but the ending of American Psycho is so ironic that people miss exactly what the entire point of the ending is supposed to convey. Listen.
I want no one to escape. But even after admitting this, there is no catharsis. My punishment continues to elude me, and I gain no deeper knowledge of myself. No new knowledge can be extracted from my telling. This confession has meant nothing.
So without going too detailed, and not all of that 100% applies, but the overall theme of the movie is the going through the motions. He does everything that the successful man does, like his colleagues, and it means nothing. It means nothing in the end. And that's the irony, guys. You don't want to be a Sigma male. That's not admirable. Not only because is it not kind and sweet and wonderful, loving, it's a key way to be miserable. You're miserable if all you do is pursue these physical surface level masculinity. That's what it really is. It's not toxic masculinity. It's surface level masculinity. And not only that, but it also has a terrible correlation with addictive personality, where you become obsessed with something harmful and then you transfer that obsession to something that's more beneficial, like weightlifting. But the obsession is still the problem. The going overboard is still the problem. So it's put in a more productive manner, but you still need the personal growth for you to actually grow beyond that as a person, because as we've seen, you can obsess with one thing, but what's stopping you from going right back to where you started? Obsessing over something positive is still an obsession, and that's still a negative trait. So can we stop labeling physical health, goals, and manly behavior with toxic masculinity? And at the same time, can we stop glorifying only the caricature of what a real man is? Can we stop misguiding young men into the cart before the horse mentality? And can we stop emphasizing only half of the truth? That's the key thing. We have, we want, soy boys, men that don't do anything, blah, blah, blah. And then we have, men should only eat meat and, tell their women what to do. And, but the problem is when you become a caricature of an argument, you make no progress and you harm everybody disproportionately, because both are harmful. Both are harmful. There's no nuance, and the gaming community needs growth. We're fat. We're isolated, we're friendless, we don't accomplish near enough that's worth anything, and we also don't take enough initiative to help other people. That's the key thing too. What kind of a person are you? And what's the solution? Now, I actually argue that to an extent it's systemic. I think whether it's the food industry, social media, the gaming industry, whatever, it is built to keep us on the hamster wheel in some way, shape, or form. It's built to keep us obsessive and deprived of our humanity. And whether that's, I'm not saying we should go back and live on the farm, but we have to really evaluate a lot of our habits. So here's the thing. How do you fix this? Well, you need to stop that mindset. Stop trying to fix things. That's obsessive. That's the Sigma male mindset. Not doing anything and then working out 3 hours a day and then burning yourself out, getting rhabdo and crashing and burning. That's the problem. So take small steps. Don't fix it, grow. Don't improve, don't fix. Family. Friends, take better care of your sleep, your diet, exercise, take better care of your mental health, avoid social media more often than you do right now, build more hobbies, spend more time helping others, If you spend more time helping others, you'll do a better job taking care of yourself. We're meant to help other people. That's where we find catharsis more so than through anything else, I would argue. And fix those things by just improving them a little bit. Don't worry about making it so black and white that it needs to be perfect. No, that's the problem. When you aim for perfection and anything less than perfection is a failure, then you never make any progress. Little strides. And what are you going to do today? What are you going to do this week? What are some small little habits that are going to be worth putting your time into, that are not just going to make you a better man, but a better person? So all this being said, I'm not perfect. I catch myself, all the time screwing this stuff up. Whether for me, it's mostly been the social media, and I think spending time with friends and family. That's the hard time, especially when I'm on my grind. I've got it's part of my grind, but I have to catch myself. It's not healthy for me. So I have to find balance with that, and I just don't want this conversation to kind of fade, and I want this opportunity to be lost, because I think this was a really interesting conversation, and there's a lot to learn from. So shout out to SVB for provoking this conversation and providing, I felt like, was a very fair and balanced opinion on things. And while I feel this message, Awkward's message, lacks crucial nuance, I do appreciate Awkward's attempt to help people be better. And I think, it's easy for us to throw stones. It's easiest for to respond with memes and Awkward, typical Awkward. But are we going to go and do better? Are we going to go out actually and actually help people and provide, not necessarily inspire change, but also just change our own lives, take responsibility for what we're doing? So I don't know really what I wanted to go with this, but guys, improve, don't fix. Accomplish things, even if it's just simply making yourself a better person or treating others with more dignity. That's real masculinity. Real men love their moms.